Hello, my name is Josh Nye, and I'm the Senior Government Relations Manager at Ewald Consulting. I've worked in both state and federal government for elected officials and have testified and have helped prepare people to testify before several legislative committees. I've seen firsthand that our democracy thrives when everyday people actively participate in the legislative process. We've all heard that voting is crucial to being an engaged citizen, and I completely agree. But it's just as important for people like you to connect with their elected officials on issues that matter most to you. You have the right and the responsibility to make your voice heard. And in this brief video, we'll walk through how you can testify at a Minnesota Legislative Committee hearing. And while we'll be speaking directly to the Minnesota Legislature, this could apply to other states as well. So let's get to it. Why should you testify? Speaking before a legislative committee can seem like a daunting task, especially if you've never done it before. Trust me, as someone who has participated in many committee hearings, sharing your story can truly make a difference. You can bring attention to issues that may have gone unnoticed and introduce fresh perspectives that haven't been considered. And you can educate legislators because, quite frankly, there are way too many issues for them to know everything. Committee members often hear from lobbyists like me, and we do share valuable information. But legislators also want to hear from people in their communities. They want to hear from real Minnesotans, directly impacted by the bills they are debating. They want to hear from you. It is especially important if you have subject matter expertise or direct experience in what they are discussing. I want you to remember that your opinion matters. Members do listen to those who speak from the testifier table. So how can you testify in a committee? It's not as hard as you think, and we have great staff in the Minnesota House and Senate to thank for that. If a bill you're tracking is scheduled for a committee hearing, usually posted on the committee website a couple of days before the hearing, you can call or email the committee administrator, the lead committee staffer, to get on the testifier list. If you have a lobbyist, they can help with that too, but you don't have to be a registered lobbyist to provide testimony. Here are a few things to remember and ask about.
Tell them you want to testify in support or opposition of a specific bill on the agenda for the date of the hearing. Confirm how long you have to speak. Expect to have under 3 minutes. This is all dependent upon the agenda for the day and how many people want to testify. Here's a helpful hint. If you have more to say, submit written testimony. You can do both. Confirm if you have to testify in person or if you can testify virtually. Each committee is different. And finally, give them your name, your job, or professional title that you want printed on the agenda.
And now that you're on the agenda, prepare your comments, keeping within the specific time frame the committee administrator gives you. Your remarks should be directed to the bill and should be supported with as many facts as possible. While it's important to say, I support or I oppose this bill, you should explain why, given your area of expertise and how it could impact your community. Here's an example that could use some work.
Mr. Chair and members, House File 123 is a tax bill about housing. It would make housing easier to access and cost businesses more money.
Mr. Chair and members, I am Jennifer Jones, and I'm here today representing the Minnesota Housing Support Coalition to support House File 123 because this bill will provide an important tax incentive for housing providers to offer more affordable housing. I relied on housing vouchers for many years, but now own my own home because I was able to get this essential support.
After you've gotten your remarks right where you want them, you will want to practice. Here are some helpful tips.
Read it aloud, and then read it again and again. If you stumble over a word, start over. Read it aloud with the TV or radio on. There will be noise and other distractions while presenting, so best be prepared. Time yourself. It's always better to be under time than over time. You do not need to memorize your testimony, but see how much you can recite while looking up. Try to prepare to look at committee members. Remember, 1 page. Leave behind documents. If you have additional information that you want the committee to have, make sure you follow the committee guidelines for how to submit.
You can watch all the committee hearings you want on the House and Senate website or on the House and Senate YouTube channels. The legislature does a very good job at recording hearings and making those hearings accessible to the public. You might want to watch a hearing or two before your hearing to better understand how the committee works, because each chair is different. The committee chair will call you to the table when it's your turn to testify. Wait until they recognize you before you begin your presentation. Copies of the agenda, the bill, and any available amendments and handouts will be available online and at a table near the door to the hearing room. Reminder, committees don't always start on time. They don't always go in agenda order. They don't always finish their agenda, and you may see committee members coming and going. This is all perfectly normal, as the nature of the legislative calendar is absolutely fluid. It's the day of your bill hearing. You've been called to testify and you're sitting at the testifying table. The committee chair and members are in front of you and it's your turn to speak. Remember to breathe, relax, speak up, and speak slowly. Begin your remarks by addressing the chair first and then the members of the committee. State your name and the organization you are representing for the record, and if you are supporting or opposing the bill, like this.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Steve Johnson, and I am here on my own behalf in support of Senate File 123.
You can read your remarks directly from your written testimony. Again, why it's so important to come prepared in advance. Avoid being repetitive, being too technical, using acronyms without spelling out what they mean first, and stay at or under the time allowed. Otherwise, the chair may interrupt you and ask you to finish. You can expect some questions from committee members. This is not to put you on the spot, but to provide them with additional information. It's okay to say,
I don't know, I'll have to get back to you.
This is also not the time to debate if members disagree with you. When a member asks you a question, remember to wait to be recognized by the committee chair before responding. After all the questions have been asked and answered, make sure to thank the committee chair and the committee for their time, and then you can leave the table. And don't leave the table before signing the testifier sign-in sheet.
Following up on what you said you would during your testimony is almost as important as your testimony itself. If you say you'll follow up with a member about something they had a question about, you should do so as quickly as possible. Now, that doesn't mean immediately after you leave the committee table, but within 24 to 48 hours. You can send the information to the committee staff, but contact information for House and Senate members is also available on the House and Senate website. Again, Minnesota makes it very easy for us to contact our legislators.
And hearing from the public and not paid lobbyists like me does make an impact at the Capitol. But don't take my word for it. Here are some of those legislators who sit in committee during the legislative session and listen to the stories from people like you on issues impacting the lives of Minnesotans.
As a committee chair, it is important to me that our members hear from the public. Their testimony provides us with diverse perspectives and firsthand experiences that are essential for making informed decisions. Public testimony is a crucial part of the legislative process. It is especially important for committee members to hear from those who will be directly affected by the laws we are considering. This ensures that policies and funding decisions that pass out of committees reflect the needs and wants of Minnesotans.
The committee process allows us to hear directly from Minnesotans who would be impacted by the proposed bill and who have the expertise in the issue area we are discussing. Their knowledge and experience give committee members the real-world information we need to make adequate policy and budget decisions. Without members of the public willing to testify, legislators couldn't do our jobs appropriately.
Thank you to Chair Joachim and Senator Duckworth for sharing their thoughts with us today.
Going before a legislative committee can be intimidating, but it is also very rewarding, and it can make all the difference in whether a good bill passes or a bad bill fails. Last biennium, more than 5,000 bills were introduced in each body. Legislators cannot be expected to understand every issue that comes before them, and so they rely on people with direct experience to educate them. This is why it is so important that Minnesotans come to the Capitol, either virtually or in person, to share their experience and knowledge with their elected officials. Ewald Consulting's team of government relations professionals with over 80 years of experience at the Minnesota Legislature helps their clients navigate the complexities of the legislative process, and prepares them to testify before committees, meet with legislators, introduce and pass bills, and develop the relationships that are essential to success at the Minnesota Capitol.